Alright, this is a 2005-2010 Odyssey, and as you can see, the drive belt is just laying here. Doesn't look like there's any damage on it. It's not frayed or anything like that. Now, unless I had a new belt, I couldn't tell if it had stretched or not, but I'm gonna guess it's not because I haven't really seen any stretch. It has spit the belt, and what I'm assuming is that it was a tensioner. But before I do that, what I want to do is go ahead and turn all the pulleys that I can get to and just make sure none of them feel locked up. Because if a pulley's locked up, there's a good likelihood that it'll spit the belt off too. It doesn't even need the tension to be bad. But we'll see here in a minute. Now, if your model has wheel locks like this one, you'll have to go and find that to get this wheel off and replace the belt. But this one happened to be in the glove box. They can be back here in this cubby with the spare. That's where sometimes they're kept if someone hasn't gotten them out before, but luckily this one's in the glove box. It's easy to get to. Alright, now the wheel's off. These, by the way, are require 22mm socket. Other Hondas like Civics and stuff, that's 19 usually. But Odysseys and Pilots are, and maybe Ridgelines, I think, yeah, Ridgelines also are 22mm. Now the next thing you're going to want to get off is this cover inside of here, and it's held on by this clip, and there's another one under here, I believe. Can't feel it at the moment. Yeah, there's one right there, and there's one right there, and then you should be able to grab it and fold it out of the way and do what you need to do. But I have these pliers, and they're kind of a special tool, not really, but I use these to get these out. You can just get a flathead and pry underneath there and pop them out, but these make it much easier. So most of you probably just get a flathead and get it out of there. Alright, now that I have this off, it looks like there's some bad news. From what I can see, yeah, you can see a dent in the AC compressor right there. I don't see many other markings, I don't even see it, but what happened was the, looks like the harmonic balancer, it has a rubber piece in the middle of it. There's this piece right here, and there's the part that the belt sits on, and it sheared off completely. Wow. I actually haven't seen that happen before. So I think what we're going to need here is a new harmonic balancer. Alright, so Honda crank pulleys are notorious for having tight bolts. Now, the upside to that is once you get this bolt off, you can take this thing off by your, like with your hands. You just walk it off there. It's pretty easy. But getting this bolt off, it's usually torqued to about, pretty close to 200 foot-pounds. So it's pretty tight. And when it's been on there for a while, it usually gets pretty locked on there. And you can see this hex. Maybe a hex, I'm not really counting the sides, but this hex right here, and you can rent a tool, and that's what I was going to do. You can rent a tool from O'Reilly's, and it holds the pulley. Unfortunately, they did not have it, so I'm resorting to trying to use PB Blaster. Now, this is just a lubricant. I'm going to spray it on there, hope it soaks in. You hold it in place, and you get another socket on there to break it loose. It's quite a pain with how tight these things are, but I'm hoping that since I have pretty much full charge on my impact, it should come right off. That's the plan, at least. Now, I don't know how well you can hear me, but another thing you can do to help if it is pretty tight, because it will be, you can just hit it, get a hammer, you just want to hit, and that'll break some of the rust loose. And then with this PB Blaster here, hopefully, it'll create some new crevices for the lubricant to seep in and help get it off there. Oh man, the rim of that pulley is bending before the bolt breaks loose. Alright, so I found a store that has the pulley holder in stock. I'm gonna go grab that because other methods were not working. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm headed off to O'Reilly again to get that tool. So now, as you can see, I have the crank pulley holder. I'm using a 1/2-inch breaker bar because I'm going to use a ratchet to be cranking on it, but I don't like to. It puts a lot of strain on it. As you can see, I just have that there. It's connected, and the bar is stopped right here on the tie rod to keep it from moving any further. So I'm going to go ahead and try to break this loose.
I've seen him in the newspaper.
God, I feel like an idiot. Right now, my foot's on the oil pan and the control arm. Oh! Yeah! Oh! Oh my God. Oh yeah. Alright, so now that's loose. Thank God. Now just get the bolt out, and the pulley should come off fairly easily. Something. See, the great thing about Honda pulleys is, even though that crank bolt was hardest thing I've ever had to take off, I just use my hand and walk it back and forth, back and forth. I don't even need to rent a puller. I just need to rent some other stupid tool. Keep walking it, walking it, walking it, walking it, walking it, and there we go. We got our pulley off. So as you can see, let's get the cotter keys in line, not that it really matters, but here's the old one, here's the new one. This rubber ring, you can't really tell it's rubber because it's all painted the same, but this ring that goes around the outside is rubber, and it insulates vibrations so you as the driver don't feel them. This will get old and deteriorate, and that's what happened here. This part just sheared off, so it's just laying in the road somewhere. But yeah, you can see pretty, they look the same. So, gonna go back in with that. So you can see the direction of the cotter key on there, on the crank snout. So I'm gonna set mine in a similar orientation and try to get it on there with one hand, which is a lot of fun. I'm gonna set the camera down. There it is. I think.
No.
Yeah, that's it. And then you just gotta walk it back on there. And I think that's about as deep as it goes. But once you get it on there, and you make sure you're on that cotter key, because if you're not, you can cause damage. But you just put your bolt back on and thread it in by hand first. You don't want to run it in with your impact or a ratchet or anything, because the last thing you want is a cross-threaded crankshaft. But alright, and then to aid in putting the belt on, you don't really want this engine cover here because it just gets in the way. So what you can do is, it's got this little screw here. It goes like a quarter turn and it's out. Like that. Another one there. And grab it, it pulls right up. And then you can see all the pulleys and where to get on it. Now I will leave a picture of belt routing for you guys. Now, what I'm going to do to detension the tensioner, this is the tensioner right here, and it has a 14mm nut on there. And I'm using this. You can use a 14mm wrench. I have before. It's not very easy, but as long as you got something that'll give you some leverage, if it's a long wrench or if you've got a ratchet with a 14mm socket on it, you can make it happen. And get it on there, show you. You pull this back, and to take the tension off it, you push it forward. You can see it move, and the spring is what holds the belt in place. All right. Now, as you can see, I have it fed on all the pulleys except for the power steering pulley up here, and I have the wrench or whatever you choose to use on the tensioner. So what I'm going to do now is just push forward on the tensioner and move this belt around the back side of the pulley. So I'm pushing forward, gaining a lot of slack, and then boom, we let go and we're on. So as you can hear, there's no belt squeal Nothing out of the ordinary. If you had it routed wrong, there may be a little bit of slack in it. You may hear some squealing or maybe just a little bit of clattering. But as you can hear, there's none of that. So it's all routed right and we're running again. Now, as you can see, I got a torque wrench on here. And it's the last thing I'm doing. I would recommend to do it as when you get that crank bolt on so you don't forget. But you want to torque this to around 180 pounds. Now there's some lubrication specs that they say to do to get that torque. Like you want to lubricate under the washer and on the threads. But I'm not doing that. I'm thinking 180 pounds is far tight enough. So I'm going to try to tighten this now. And looks like the impact already got it tight enough for me, so I think we're good. Now that we know everything is running properly, just go ahead and put this engine cover back on, put the wheel on, and get this fender liner cover back up, and then set to give it back to the customer. Now, that's about it for replacing the balancer and the belt. Hopefully you don't have to do this in a parking lot like I did. I've been here for a few hours messing around with it because that balancer was ridiculously tight. So I hope this helped you out and I hope you learned something from it. I try to make videos fairly often, so subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. I might be able to put more stuff out that'll help you out. So thanks for watching and see you next time.